So with this article, the first thing you said was that this changes your stance on if you would want to play with Kawhi.
Because all right, I understand. Look, I don't have to like give all the accolades about Kawhi and what he's done, but like if you're looking at this article written by Joe Von Buha of The Athletic, I want to make sure that we shout him out. Like the amount of preferential treatment given to this man was as if this current unit had won something already. And I'm not, I'm not like naive. Like I know star players get treatment, but like what you're looking at here is my problem with Kawhi is that when he's been successful for with the Spurs and with the Raptors, he was a key component of those teams. He won Finals MVP with both teams. He didn't establish the culture for those teams because he didn't have to. Those Spurs already had their identity and what they were into. The Raptors already had their identity. They just needed a point to the spear. But this Clippers team, they needed him to come in and set the tone. And when you're talking about like where's the list? The Leonard and George were the only players to have their own security guards, had power over the team's travel schedule. Guys, we're thinking that Leonard had direct control over whether they even practiced or not. And like for you to come in and act like that, and you already know that you need certain provisions for your rest and taking care of your body, and you already know these things, wouldn't you do more to ingratiate yourself with the team, especially since that Clippers unit the year before, their identity was underdog, band together, all for one, like that type of mentality. And like to me, he just didn't establish anything there. And if I was a teammate, I wouldn't be happy about some of those things either. We haven't won anything.
But is Pat Bev upset that he doesn't have his own private security? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm looking at this bullet point list, and I'm just like, okay, privacy. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were the only ones to have their personal security guards and trainers. Who else on the Clippers would have their own personal unless they're paying for them? I'm assuming they're probably paying for that because they can afford it.
I mean, like to me, that's the least of the gripes, though. Like you're
power over the team's practice schedule and travel schedule, leading teammates to believe Leonard canceled multiple practices. Come on, bro.
Well,
what do we talk? What? But so my only thing is that if we're like, as if the GOAT, the man, the one, the LeBron James, as if there aren't all these jokes flying about how he controls everything. We just heard stuff about how with the protests and stuff, LeBron, we joke about how LeBron runs the league and how he trades his own teammates and he deals in all that stuff because star power in the league today is on a different level because of people like LeBron. So I'm looking at this list and I'm just like, okay, some of this is teammates believe that Kawhi was canceling practices. Okay, he was late to team flights. What?
Here's what we're talking about, though. LeBron gets to do that, one, because he's still winning, and two, because
stars get to do that. But all stars get to do that?
No, if you're not LeBron, Kobe, Michael Jordan, and maybe Kareem, I don't want you doing that. I don't want
even Kobe and them do it. I mean, the fact is, Kobe. Like Michael, Kobe, like they were showing up late to flights. That's like a Dennis Rodman type of thing. So I mean, I don't want anybody like doing that. Like even the greats. But when we're talking, I'm just talking stars. All stars get special treatment, do they not?
My problem is this. LeBron, runs the league. He probably gets these perks and more. But the other side of that is he throws the Halloween parties. They have the unifying team events. Guys, you don't get that
with personality. You can't knock him because that's not his personality.
You need to be a leader. You're not connected with your teammates if guys think that you're canceling practices, if guys feel like they're not close enough to you, where whether these allegations are true or not, those allegations aren't coming out of a LeBron locker room. They're not coming out of a Kobe or MJ locker room. So if you're going to do that, do all the special treatments. I'm sure there's people who don't love the things that are afforded to LeBron, but those LeBron teams are connected. That's one thing that's never been, a shot at any of his teams. But this Clippers team, they're not on the same page. Like it says in the article that Kawhi spent most of his time hanging out with an assistant coach. who he was friends with in high school, and Paul George spent most of his time hanging out with Patrick Patterson and Reggie Jackson, who he used to play with on other teams. So like you throw that with this whole coronavirus pandemic, these guys aren't even hanging out.
Sure.
These guys are in the locker room.
That is how Kawhi is. That is how Kawhi is. We know that. And I'll also say this. I feel like all those years of hard discipline in San Antonio, the reason why he was set on going to LA, like before it was confirmed. Once he made the move to the Clippers, it was confirmed what everyone was saying when he went to Toronto, that he really didn't want to be there. He was just there to just try and do the best he could. And he was good enough. He wasn't just the key component. He was the man. He was the reason they won, bro. That team was great situation, great pieces. I'm not taking away from Siakam, Van Vliet, Kyle Lowry, none of that. But without what happened when he left? What happened when he left? Did they win? We always do that with LeBron. Like what happened? What was the team when they left? They weren't terrible, but they didn't win a title.
Well, yeah,
like,
I don't want
difference. He was the man, right? So he got that done. But he wanted to be in it. He saw the star treatment, bro. Why not? Why? Like he saw what everybody else gets, what everybody else gets to do. He spent all those years in San Antonio, bro. He bled, he sweat, he did all that for the white man, for Greg Popovich. I love Pop. Pop. But he did all those years, and he's like, hey man, I'm trying to get it like they get it. Why not?
Because you have to go based off of, if you're going to do that, then stay in Toronto, where their team culture, team identity, and the rest of your ancillary parts are better equipped for that. Because you go to the Clippers, that is not their team identity. Their team identity, it was Lou Williams, Pat Beverly, and Montrezl Harrell against the world the year before Kawhi got there.
But do you want identity or do you want champion?
Well, that's why they had to go and do that, because like that's the difference between being that, oh, they're a dangerous 7 or 8 seed and you might win a game or two and go to state, to you're not like, and even still now they're there because Kawhi and Paul George are on the roster. So even still now, with all of these chemistry issues, they can absolutely go and win a title or compete for a title this season. But you have to actually go and win it. And Kawhi in those other cities in San Antonio and Toronto, those teams were equipped to be able to handle a star and like an internal hierarchy like that. Toronto has vets there, you know, and like even still now, they didn't go to win the championship, but there's an identity and blueprint for that team that's still there. If Siakam is really an elite offensive option, if he ever figures out how to be a number one, I don't know if he's going to do that or not, but like that blueprint is kind of still there. It just doesn't work like that with the team of guys they had with the Clippers. Now,
I agree. And I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Is that Kawhi, or is that the other? Is that the other? Do they just need to get?
I don't really
tolerate Kawhi and then make it work, because that's what happened in Toronto. It was just
listen to this. I just want this one paragraph. I don't want to read this man's whole story, but this one paragraph. There wasn't consistency behind his actions with teammates. Multiple league sources said he didn't talk up his teammates the way other stars do, even behind the scenes. And his leadership progressed throughout the season, but it never reached the level it needed to foster a championship culture.
Talk up his team, like, yo, bro, I get it. Like, I understand. I've been there myself in my own like,
right.
Like, I understand what that means, but whoa. This is the NBA.
It is.
Talking about talking up your teammates? You need bro.
Look, I'm not making the argument, but I'm saying if these things, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's something like I've learned from all of these stories, because they wrote a story about this in January, talking about the Clippers locker room. Yeah. So like, we don't have direct quotes. Some of this stuff may be alleged or whatever, but this stuff is out there.
Yeah.
So clearly there are people on this team that took issue, and like Morris, it should be noted that a lot of it was directed to Paul George as well, more so towards Paul George, because of, like, you know, what have you done in the playoffs? What have you done? What have you accomplished?
That's my thing too. Like, you know, the two of them, like, of course they came together. They're both stars again, but then there are levels among stars, and Kawhi's on a different level as a star.
Yeah, so it's just like for you to be like what is going on, and like to me, just like what that team needs. They don't need that right now. And I think Tyronn Lue and Serge Ibaka will be great for their basketball, you know, for their basketball DNA, but also their locker room DNA, because Ty Lue went into Cleveland, difficult situation, known for managing the personalities there, including Bron. Ibaka He's he's a jokester guy, also friends with Kawhi off the court, which I think is important, and he should bring kind of like a unifying presence in that.
They're already doing it, but I feel like Batum is the kind of player that could talk that just is just business. He don't need his best player to talk him up. He's just gonna go.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I get that. I get that.
Saying, bro.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's probably maybe what they're doing now. They just have to reconfigure the system, because it's like, to your point, their system and culture wasn't really built to take on Kawhi and Paul George. I feel like Steve Ballmer and all them were really excited about it, and I mean,
they didn't have a star before. Now all of a sudden you have a star. Guys had to change up what they're dealing with. So you got to tell Louis, I'm not sure how, like Louis talked about, we had to change our games a little bit. They went a little bit more ISO heavy, even though I read that they're going to try to go back into like more of a ball movement type of deal next year. But it was a big adjustment. And I just think that fixing all of these issues over the course of one off season is going to be a tremendous task. And they're Kawhi and Paul George are going to have to be more bought in this year than they were last year. I think that's undeniable. They need to be more present. I will leave it at that.
All I'm saying is that Pat Bev and Lou Will were in the casino celebrating when they heard that Paul George and Kawhi were coming, and I just need them to keep that same energy, because I mean, it is what it is, man.
But that's what it is, and that's why we also have to be careful. Like the Lakers won the offseason this year. We were celebrating what the Clippers did last year. It was over with. They got everybody they needed. It was over with, and then they were up 3-1 and lost. So like winning the offseason championship doesn't mean anything when the real basketball starts. So it's just.
But there is a level of leadership that needs to be shown, like in general. Like, I mean, I get that side of it. I get it. It's just that.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, again, like I'm looking at which side. I mean, and it's tough because like if you're gonna favor the star, which is always gonna happen.
Yes.
Part in the article where it's like, what are you gonna do? It's Kawhi. That's in any situation when it's a star versus someone else saying, hey, like, why do they get to do that? Like. Like who are you? Like you know what I mean? Just chill.
Yeah,
like they make the most money. That's how it works. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just think it's a gentle balance, because while that's how it works, and I know you understand. It's just like you can't have these stories coming out. So like at a certain point, if you are the star, you need to come down from the penthouse if there's some discord going on in general population, and put your arms around the guys. And I'm not saying like baby him or anything, but you got to make sure that that's together. You got to make sure that the ship is running tight. And clearly it was not. So like more action needed to me on everybody's part going into this season.